Today we're talking about another extravagant and wild fairy tale by Madame d'Aulnoy, the woman who coined the term fairy tale, with the white cat. This story shares many similarities with the traditional Puss in Boots stories, but as always, Madame d'Aulnoy puts her own extra twist on it. It starts with this king who has 3 sons, and he's scared they're gonna rebel and try to take over the kingdom before he dies. So to keep his sons busy and not thinking of a rebellion, he decides to distract them with tasks. The first task is to find the most beautiful little dog in the world. He's like, once I retire, I'll want it out in the country with me. So they have a year to go find the best dog, and whoever finds the prettiest, cutest little dog is gonna get the kingdom. The youngest son is our protagonist. So he goes about looking for this dog. One day he ends up in this mysterious forest and finds this castle in the middle of it. There's a deer's foot hanging by a chain of diamonds, and he pulls it. Doors fly open, but the prince could see nothing but numbers of hands in the air, each holding a torch. The hands kind of grab him and push him into the castle, these disembodied hands. And it says he can't help but just kind of go along with it. So after they take him through 60 gorgeous rooms, it says the pretty, soft, clever hands took off all his wet, muddy clothes. He changes into gorgeous clothes, and then he comes out, and there's a dozen cats playing guitars and playing music in this dining room with a golden table. It says that they're drawing their claws along the strings of the guitars, and the prince stops his ears up because it's just so weird and strange. As it would be. So finally, this beautiful white lady cat is brought in on a pillow with cages of mice and rats behind her, and it's clear she's in charge. He's like, Lady Cat, thank you for receiving me so kindly. And she's like, you're the most welcome. The floating hands bring them dinner, and they bring stewed pigeons to the prince, but then a fricassee of fat mice for the cat. And he looks kind of grossed out, and she's like, don't worry, there aren't mice in your food. So he notices she's wearing this bracelet on her paw, and he asks to see it, and when he opens it, there's a picture inside of this locket of a young man that looks almost exactly like him. But the cat looks really sad when he points out the picture, and so he doesn't bring up anything else about it. I would be personally very freaked out by the floating hands and the picture that looks exactly like me, but he loves it. He stays with the cat, he gets used to the cat entertainment, they go hunting, and he rides this magical wooden horse, and she rides a monkey. And the cat's clever and well educated and witty, and he just loves spending time with the cat. He loves it so much that a year is almost up, and he suddenly realizes, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to go back with this amazing dog. So she gives him an acorn, and she's like, don't worry, the cutest dog in the world is in this acorn. It says he holds it to his ear and hears a tiny bow wow, and he's like, must be true. He goes back, the 2 brothers present their dogs, and then he opens that acorn, and it is the tiniest, cutest dog in the world inside this acorn, sitting on a white cushion. As soon as he sets it on the ground, it starts to dance. So he wins, but the king's like, no, I think I need to send you on another quest. The next quest is to find muslin so fine it can be drawn through the eye of a needle. But the prince immediately just goes back to the cat and spends another year with her. She gives him a walnut at the end of the year that, of course, has the finest muslin in the world in it. So then the king says, actually, here's the last task. You guys need to go find wives, and whoever brings back the loveliest bride is gonna get the throne. It says the prince considered he'd really earned the kingdom fairly twice over, but he was too well-bred to argue about it. But he really just wants to go back to the cat anyway, so he goes back, and she's strewn the palace with flowers. She says, tonight I've ordered a battle between my cats and river rats to amuse you. A year slips away, and then at the end he's like, I have to take a bride home. And she's like, I can help you. Take this sword and cut off my head. He's like, oh my God, no, I'm not gonna do that. She's like, no, trust me, cut off my head. And this is a direct quote from the story. He begged to be spared the grief of killing his dear pussy. Sorry, I'm 12. But finally she convinces him, and he takes out his sword and cuts off her head. Here it is, right here. But as you may have guessed, as soon as he does, a beautiful princess emerges where the cat was. In classic French fairy tale fashion, she tells him a ginormous backstory. Her father was a king who reigned over 6 kingdoms, and her mother loved exploring. And one day she explored in the woods and found this amazing castle that fairies lived in, and they had fruit on the inside of the castle, in their gardens. And she's dying to taste this fairy fruit. But the fairies won't let her have it, so she keeps trying and keeps trying. And finally, one of the fairies says, okay, we'll give you all the fruit you can carry back home if you give us the daughter you're gonna give birth to. So she sells her daughter for fairy fruit. She goes home, the king is mad about it, and so he shuts her and the daughter, once she gives birth, up in a tower so that the fairies can't get them. But the fairies send a dragon, and the dragon's gonna like destroy the whole kingdom if the king doesn't give up the daughter. So he gives up the daughter and the fairies take her. Well then, in very Rapunzel fashion, our girl grows up in the tower with the fairies, but then one day a prince comes by and they fall in love and he visits her and she wants to run away with him. But the fairies attack, her lover gets eaten by the dragon, and the fairies turn her into the white cat. All the lords and ladies of her father's court who apparently came with her are also turned into cats, so that's who the other cats are, and the people of lesser rank became made invisible except for their hands, the useful part of them. So then they left her alone in this castle they're in right now and said the only way to break her spell is to win the love of a prince who looks exactly like her dead lover who got swallowed by the dragon, which, as you recall, our guy does. That's who the picture was of in her locket. And he's like, well, it worked because I love you. And she's like, I love you too, man who looks just like my dead lover. So he takes her home and he wins the bride contest because everyone agrees she is the most beautiful girl they've ever seen in their lives. And I love the very end because she says to the king, hey, me and my man, we're not here to take your kingdom. I've got 6 kingdoms, so I'm going to give 1 to you and 1 to each of your sons. And then me and my man will keep the other 3 for ourselves. And other than that, I just want your friendship. So they all lived happily ever after. I have to mention real quickly a very similar Norse story called Lord Peter. Like in the Puss in Boots stories, the way the cat wins favor for the man she loves is by bringing game to the king and saying it is from her man. But instead of bringing him like ducks or something, she brings him a reindeer. Said she jumped on the reindeer's head, clawed her claws into him, and said, if you don't go to the king right now, I'm gonna claw your eyes out. So she delivers him live to the slaughter, and she does that with an elk, a reindeer, and a red deer. She ends up defeating a troll by tricking it into staying in the sunlight and exploding, because trolls do that a lot in Norse stories. And then he cuts off her head and she turns into a princess and says how the troll cursed her and all that stuff. Oh, but of course the way she gets him to cut her head off is, I'll claw your eyes out if you don't. So he does. More badass women who know what they want. Check out my fairy tale retelling, Dust Spells, a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and check out my podcast, Folk Tales and Fairy Lore. Link is in the bio.